This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. You're listening to MeowMix, a Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Jerry.
My name is Steven.
And on this episode, we're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers signings, free agent signings of 2020.
2020, yep. We've already gone over some of these. I think we mentioned, Teddy Bridgewater. We mentioned some of the a couple of the signings, I guess, but we've actually done quite a few signings since the last podcast, so there's quite a bit to talk about today.
Yeah, and we actually have numbers, too, to go with Teddy Bridgewater and Trey Boston, so we can look into those a little bit as well.
Yeah. First off, Jerry, How are you doing? Everything okay? Are you surviving?
I am surviving. We're being very cautious with the 2-month-old baby, not leaving the house, Instacarting. Luckily, we're on parental leave, so we don't have to leave for work or anything. I know Mecklenburg, I live in Cabarrus County. We're all on lockdown, stay-at-home orders. The wife and I have been playing a lot of Mario Kart,
Nice. Yeah, well, North Carolina as a whole went on the stay-home order a few days ago, so we're all in the same boat now. I live in Iredell County, and they were holding out. They were not going to go on lockdown at all. They were determined not to, but the governor forced their hand, I guess. So, yeah, we've been kind of doing the same thing, just sticking around the house, and of course, with my wife being pregnant, and now 8 months pregnant, she's been going to the doctor a couple of times a week at least, sometimes 3 times a week. So that's been a little nerve-wracking. But, everything going well, so we're just trying to stay safe, Who knows? I don't even know if I'll be able to be in the delivery room by the time, she gives birth because of all this stuff. I mean, I don't know who they're going to let in.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't let you know, or your doctors haven't let you know any update.
Yeah, they've banned all visitors from regular appointments, so I can't even go see, like the ultrasounds or anything like that anymore.
Huh.
So that sucks.
Yeah, we have a 2-month appointment tomorrow actually, and only one of us is allowed to go in with her. So
yeah, isn't that crazy?
So I get to drive home and sit in the parking lot.
Well, that's not so bad.
And I'll listen to MeowMix podcast.
There you go. I kind of relish like the time that I get to go to Target and do our pickup or go, grab fast food or something like that. I'm like, silence. A few moments of peace. So that's the only time I get to listen to podcasts now is like when I'm doing stuff like that. So, all right. Well, glad we're all doing okay so far. Hopefully all you listeners out there are as well. Well, let's just talk about the big signing first. Let's talk about Teddy. The numbers are 3 years, $63 million. It is essentially a 2-year deal. We can opt out after 2 years with only $5 million dead cap. So I think those numbers are fine. Mm-hmm. I'm not overly concerned. I don't think we overpaid at all. I kind of thought that Teddy might get $25 million in free agency somewhere. So it's a little less than what I thought he would get. How do you feel about it?
I like the signing. I think 2 years, then we can figure out where we're at. If we're horrible next year, we draft a quarterback, then we have another year of him starting with the rookie quarterback behind him to, tell he's ready to start. I like the deal. Again, not like the way the whole Cam situation and him went down, but the deal is nice. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's a good quarterback. Don't know if he's going to be the franchise quarterback, but we'll see.
Well, I like it because number one, it's a short deal. It's not going to, we could even draft a quarterback this year, realistically. Like they could do whatever they wanted. It gives them a lot of flexibility. And I would have liked to have kept Cam for this same reason, but Teddy is sort of an unknown right now in terms of he's got potential. And if he realizes that potential, then he could be a steal. And he could be the franchise guy. I mean, who knows? And if that's the case, great. I was kind of hoping they'd keep Cam around for the same reason, because if he turned out to be healthy and had an outstanding year, then we could have just kept him. And he could have been our franchise quarterback. But obviously they didn't go that way. But yeah, I like the deal.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next big signing.
Okay. The next big signing actually happened after our last podcast. Robbie Anderson, former wide receiver for the New York Jets, 2 years, $20 million, basically a 1 year, $12 million, and then we can get away pretty easily after that. Robbie Anderson's fifth year, we're going into his 5th year in the league, played for Matt Rule before at Temple, only 26 years, never broke a 1,000-yard season, but he's a speedster.
Yeah, this one was kind of, I feel like everyone knew this was going to happen, that he was going to be signed with the Panthers. Like, we've been kind of joking about it for even last year, before Matt Rule even got here. We were thinking that Robbie Anderson might be traded to the Panthers, you know? So this one sort of has felt like destiny for a while.
Yeah, it's really kind of weird. I thought he was going to get more. I thought
when
we projected free agents, I said Robbie Anderson earlier, and I thought it was kind of a pipe dream, because I was expecting him to get about $15 million a year. That's
what he wanted.
I don't think he's a number 1 guy. Let me put that out there. I think he's a good number 2 who has speed that can stretch the defense. And I think he's going to fit really nicely here with putting DJ Moore on the opposite side, who has speed, him on the opposite side, and then Curtis Samuel in the slot.
I agree. I think Robbie Anderson, he thought he was going to get $15 million a year. I think he was hoping for one of those, number 1 type receiver deals. And, I listened to a lot of other NFL podcasts. They were also, thinking that in sort of a down wide receiver free agent year, that he was the prize and he probably would get that money. But I think because the draft is so deep with wide receivers, that people looked at Robbie Anderson and said, well, he's kind of a one-trick pony. Mm-hmm. We're not going to pay, a guy like that $15 million a year. I think he was hoping that he'd get that Sammy Watkins deal. Sammy Watkins, kind of a similar type of player. They put up very similar stats in their first few seasons. So I think we got a really good deal. I think we
got a good deal, but I also think people need to curb their excitement for him in the simple fact that he's not a number 1 guy. In my eyes, he's not. I think he's going to fit this team very well with being the number 2 guy. So, I mean, look for 800 to maybe 1,000 yards. I don't see him really breaking out to like a 1,300 yard season here.
I think he just has to be an improvement over Curtis Samuel in that role in order to be successful. I mean, and then we can move Curtis Samuel into sort of a gadget slot, utilize, because he's got a lot of non-wide receiver skills. And he's very shifty. We could use him at running back. We use him all kinds of places that you can't really do with Robbie Anderson. So Robbie Anderson is going to be the straight burner guy. We saw how important that was when we had Ted Ginn. Mm-hmm. Having a threat like that. So I love it. I really like the signing.
And you got to think too, if you put, I like the way our offense is looking. Defense, we'll get into that later on. But offense, our offense is looking pretty good if the O-line can hold up. You have Christian McCaffrey back there, and then you put Curtis Samuel back there. Then you have DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Then you could split either Christian McCaffrey or Samuel out. They still have a threat of a run. Could be very dynamic.
It really could, because all those guys, even DJ Moore, I mean, he led the league in rushing at the wide receiver position his rookie year. So even he could go back there. So you just have a lot of flexibility with this offense. Speaking of the fact that our offense is great and our defense sucks, here's our biggest defensive signing so far. Stephen Weatherly, defensive end from Minnesota. 2 years, $12.5 million. I don't really know much about this guy. I did a little bit of research on him after we signed him. And people in Minnesota really seemed to like him. Even the fans really seemed to like him. He was sort of a super sub, I guess, for them.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of an AJ Klein that we had here. That we had Luke Kuechly, that we knew he wasn't going to see the field as a starter, but they really liked him. Started a few games in spot duty. Past 2 seasons had 6 sacks together. So it looks like his chance to kind of cement himself as a starter in the league. And we'll see if he's
going to have the opportunity because there's nobody else really. I mean, he's kind of got the inside track. This is another one of those deals that's a 2-year deal, but they've got an out after 1 year with only $2 million dead cap. So another one of those deals that they could get out of quickly. Now, all of these deals that we're going to talk about are between 1 and 3 years. They haven't signed anybody for over 3 years in free agency so far. So, and they're getting a lot of young guys. I mean, Stephen Weatherly's 26. Robbie Anderson's Robbie Anderson, I think, is 26. So, and Bridgewater's 27?
Bridgewater is showing at 28.
28. So, yeah, I mean, all these guys are young.
Well, I think what Matt Rule wants to do is he wants to get younger, he wants to get faster, and he just wants to see some of these younger guys who may have not had a chance to really start their career, see if they can actually prove themselves to be solid starters in the league.
Yeah, Rule's in a good position because he took over, he's in a rebuild, but if these guys overperform, then he looks like a genius. And if they underperform, then we can get out of their contracts really quickly, and it's a rebuild. Yeah. Nobody really is going to blame him.
And he has a fat, long contract. So I doubt he's going to get fired in 2-3 years. I think he has 4 or 5 years at least before he is on the chopping block.
Yeah. I mean, fat, long, girthy, veiny. That's a contract. Okay. Sorry. Justin Burris. Let's talk about.
That went to a really, really weird place there. Steven, I can see home quarantine is making your computer run a little more often. With your verbiage there.
Oh, man. All right. Moving on. Our next defensive signing here, Justin Burris, corner from Cleveland. Another 2-year deal, $8 million.
He's not a corner. They've already said
he's listed as cornerback.
He's gonna play safety. They've already said that it's gonna be Justin Burris and Trey Boston as safeties.
Good,
because he's played both safety, nickel, and corner, and he's coming from Cleveland. He really hasn't had that much starting again, so I guess they're gonna see what he has.
Yeah, gonna be a lot of trial and error with this team next year,
especially on defense.
Who's next?
Let me move on here. I was looking up Justin Burris' stats. We have a guard from Cincinnati, 27 years old, named John Miller, signing a 1-year, $4 million contract. Probably gonna be our starting guard, guys.
Maybe. Depends on how the draft goes. He was a 3rd-round pick in 2015. But again, don't know much about him. So, 1-year deal. They don't have a ton of confidence in him, but hoping that he surprises.
And shocking news with guards, I am not going to go back and watch tape of John Miller.
Right.
Moving on, we signed another wide receiver, 29-year-old Seth Roberts from Baltimore. 1 year, $3.7 million.
I predict that he will not make the roster. We are stacked with wide receivers on this team.
I agree. I
think he's just a camp guy.
I'm shocked they gave him that much money, though.
It is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and he really hasn't done it. I guess he gets 400 or 500 yards. I guess being that 4th receiver, that's what he's going to be.
I think it's only like a $600,000 signing bonus, though. So I think you cut him. That's all you're on the hook for is $600,000. So
in Oakland, he was getting 45 catches, 43 catches, a little under 500 yards past 2 seasons there. Then he went to Baltimore, 21 catches, 271. And Baltimore didn't throw the ball that much last year, so
I don't know where he fits in on this team.
I think he's just depth, but that's so much money for depth.
Well, yeah, I don't think. I mean, we signed another guy that we'll talk about here in a minute that I think is going to be the kick returner. So I don't think he's, in that position. I just think he's a camp body, and probably a lot of these guys that we're going to talk about here next are just going to be that. So yeah, don't know much about him. It doesn't excite me, but we'll see.
Moving on, defensive tackle Zach Kerr from Arizona, 30 years old, 2 years, $3 million. You said camp body. This guy is not going to be it. I think he's going to be a rotational defensive tackle for this team, if not starter, depending on how the draft goes.
Yeah, everybody's got us slated to take a defensive tackle with our first pick in the draft. You'd hope that guy would be the starter, but this is fine.
Yeah, he's fine. He's a journeyman. Started occasionally. Nothing really jumps out at you. 7.5 sacks in 6 years. So he's not very much of a sacker. Tackle for loss doesn't look like he's that either. I think he's just a guy who chews up guys up front to free up linebackers.
Yeah, and it's a super cheap deal. We could get out of it after this year for $250,000. So no worries.
Now, another one, Tahir Whitehead, coming from the Raiders. 1 year, $2.5 million. Former captain of Oklahoma's defense, or Oakland's defense, now Las Vegas.
Oklahoma.
Started the past, 4 years consistently with Detroit and Oakland. I think he is going to be a starter on this team with just a 1 year deal.
My only caveat to that would be if Isaiah Simmons somehow falls to us in the draft.
Yeah.
I think he'd probably be the guy.
Well,
but I mean, Tahir Whitehead, look at his stats. They're pretty good. I mean, he's had over 100 tackles the last 4 years. Had 132 in 2016 was his high. I don't think he's ever made the Pro Bowl.
No.
But I think he's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think he's a solid player. I'm shocked we didn't sign him to a longer deal than 1 year, unless that was his decision. Of course, he played for Matt Rule in Temple. A lot of these guys have had connections to Matt Rule in the future. I heard a rumor that we're changing the name to the Carolina Owls or Bear Owls.
Or Bowels.
Bowels.
Yeah, I like the Bowels because that's what it's going to be this year.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that he didn't have a bigger market. He seems like a good player. So I was happy about this. He's a name that I've heard before. Yeah. Which is not a lot of these guys are not names that I've heard before. So Tahir Whitehead's a guy that I've heard before. So, 1 year deal. Nothing to get too excited about, but I like it.
Yeah, I like it. Did you say 2 year deal or was it 1 year deal?
1 year deal for $2.5 million.
Okay. Moving on, the other wide receiver you discussed earlier, Pharaoh Cooper from Arizona, 25 years old, 1 year deal, $1.2 million. A Pro Bowl kick returner. That's what he's going to be here. A kick returner.
Yeah, something we haven't had in a while.
Yeah, so that way we don't have to trot Christian McCaffrey out there because he needs rest.
Yeah, and we need vast improvement on special teams this year. And the kick return, punt return is going to be part of that. So I hope this guy works out. It seems like I don't even remember when the last time we had a top guy was. I guess Ted Ginn.
No, he wasn't even that good here. Remember that? Because
he's the one that I remember having a few good returns.
Yeah,
I mean, otherwise it's been
really bad. We had Philly Brown returning kicks. I think that was the last touchdown we had for a punt return, and that was fluky because someone it got fumbled and he picked it up and ran it in.
Yeah, Burson. Burson was back there for a while.
Goldilocks himself.
Oh man, I mean, so yeah, it's a doomed position, a cursed position, but hopefully this guy can reverse the curse.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad it looks like we signed a guy specifically for that role, and I'm glad we did because I don't know why we haven't before. And Chase Blackburn, I don't know why you still have a job, but hopefully he can turn his coaching career around.
Yeah, well, we've talked about the Chase Blackburn thing. I don't know why either, but let's move on to the next guy here, Seth DeValve, tight end from Jacksonville, another 1 year, basically $1 million guy. I guess he's going to be brought in to compete with Ian Thomas, or maybe back up Ian Thomas. I still hope that we draft a tight end because I'm not excited about our tight end room right now.
I think this guy is actually competing for the backup roles. I think Ian Thomas has that starting job. I know you don't like Ian Thomas. I just see that he would probably have it over anybody else because you got to look at what Matt Rule seems to be really focused on is young, faster
guys from Temple and guys from Baylor.
But besides that's number one. Whenever Matt Rule looks for a free agent or anything right now, he goes, okay, was he from Temple or Baylor or have I coached him before? No. Okay. It's probably a no, but let me go to number two. I want a speedy guy who's young, who has something to prove. And I think that's what Ian Thomas is to him, and I think that's why he'll get a chance.
Well, he definitely has something to prove because he's done nothing so far in his career.
I mean, the guy we signed in 4 years has 60 receptions for 736 yards, and that's in 4 years.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's like the savior of the tight end room, but I think he'll probably... I mean, Ian Thomas hasn't done anything to cement himself as the starter. That's all I'm saying.
No,
I mean, he wasn't drafted by Matt Rule. Matt Rule has no allegiance to him, loyalty to him.
You're right. You're absolutely right. There's no allegiance there. But the 1 year when Greg Olsen was out, he had some flashes, and he was a young, raw guy coming out of college. And I'm hoping he's taken the step. I think he could.
Well, this is something that you and I have disagreed on for years, really since Ian Thomas was even brought into the Panthers. You were excited about it. I didn't care. And our divides have just gotten deeper, I think, since then. So this will be something to track, I guess, in the season moving forward is what Ian Thomas does. Let's run through. There's only a few more here. DeAndre White. He was on the team last year, a practice squad last year. He actually, I think, got into a game or two.
Yeah, he had a couple receptions, I think, from Will Greer and maybe Kyle Allen in the last game.
Yeah. So I don't have the numbers on that, but it looks like it's just a 1 year deal. Probably another practice squad for him.
I don't even think that. I think he gets gone. I think this is his third or fourth season, so I think he can't be on the practice squad anymore.
Yeah. And then Keith Kirkwood, another wide receiver. This one was with the Saints. So maybe another little Joe Brady connection there. You know, some connection with the Panthers coaching staff. So again, don't know much about him. Not super excited about it. Probably won't make the team.
Yeah, I even told you before we started this, I was like, we could even leave these guys out. No one's going to be emailing us or
we're gonna run through them, but Kirkwood. I mean, he didn't even record a catch last year, so not super excited about that. And then Trey Boston is not on this list, but we did sign him to a 3 year, $18 million deal. So we were both happy about that. I think that actually broke news last time we were doing the podcast, so we've talked about that a bit, but very, very excited about that.
Yeah, that was an awesome signing for us. I think Trey Boston played and earned himself that contract. It was 3 years, $18 million. So I think that's a good deal for him overall. And we need some veterans on defense.
Well, I was going to ask you, I don't remember... Was Eric Reed released since the last time we did a podcast?
I do not know, but Eric Reed was released. I'm kind of shocked.
Yeah, but I think it was after we did the podcast. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, if we're replacing Eric Reed with Trey Boston as sort of our number one guy at that position. I'm happy with that because Eric Reed kind of sucked last year.
Yeah, he did suck. I thought we should have given him another year as he played well the year before. But new coaching staff, and they're just wanting to eat dead money, so they let him go.
Yeah.
Gotta give this Justin Burrow kid a chance.
Hey, I'd rather give him a chance because Eric Reed, once he was okay that first year with us, then he got paid, and he sort of seems to have, done what a lot of guys do when they get paid. Stop putting in the work.
Yeah. So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Since free agency is pretty much done, there's a few guys out there that we may talk about here in a second. But with free agency done and the draft around the corner, how are you feeling about this team?
I feel exactly how I felt, I think, before free agency started, that we're probably going to suck this year. I like some of the moves that we've done. And I'm actually kind of surprised that we went out and signed a quarterback for what we did. I thought we would probably just run with the guys we had. So yeah, nothing's really changed for me. Like, I feel like this is a 5-win team.
Yeah, I agree with the 5 wins right now, but I am really confused on what this front office is thinking. Like, for example, signing Teddy Bridgewater instead of running with Cam Newton. Signing Robbie Anderson to a decent contract. Signing getting a returner. Because offensively, like I said, I feel like this team, if the O-line can hold up, could be a top 10 offense. But they're just, even though they sign guys on defense, but they're only signing them to 1 or 2 year deals. And our defense is so full of holes. It's going to be a horrible defense.
Well, in the NFL, you build through the draft. Like, we know that, right? So they're signing all these guys 1 to 2 year deals, really, except for Bridgewater and Boston. I mean, they're the only ones that got 3 years. And even those are really 2 year deals that you can get out of. So I see what they're doing. They're trying to put something on the field that people will want to come see, but not lock themselves into these terrible deals, which really makes me wonder, what are they going to do with McCaffrey? Because by all rights, he should hold out until he gets a big deal.
You're going into a whole different boat with McCaffrey. I have no clue is what they're planning with McCaffrey. Because I feel like it's a tug or a push and pull with this front office of, hey, do we want to try to win? Because if you don't want to win, I don't see why you signed Teddy Bridgewater and Robbie Anderson. But then again, I also don't see why, if you're trying to win, why you cut all the players we did. I'm kind of at a loss. I don't know what this team front office really wants.
Well, I think, like I said, I think they want to rebuild. And you're signing these guys to short-term deals with low money, low risk, very low. Even Bridgewater's very low risk. If he doesn't work out, you just cut him after a couple of years. You go ahead and draft your guy now, or you draft him next year. But if Teddy happens to catch fire and be the guy that it looked like he was becoming in Minnesota, then you have struck gold.
Okay. Here's my counter argument. If we are rebuilding, what happens if the offense does catch fire, which there's a lot of weapons on here. But our defense is still awful, and we win 7-8 games. We're going to be picking around 14th. We're not going to be able to get anybody of value to that defense.
Well, you can't really say that. I mean, you get anywhere in the first round, really, you can get quality defensive starters. Really, you're just saying that if you don't have a top 5 pick, you're probably not going to get one of the top 2 quarterbacks.
True. But
really,
I guess my theory is, if in that scenario the offense took all, so Bridgewater would be your guy. But
right,
I just feel like I don't know if they want to rebuild or not, and I feel like they're struggling to define if they do or not. Defensively, I definitely see rebuild. Offensively, I see, hey, we have a chance.
Well, so offensively, I mean, we already have a lot of young weapons on the team, right? Offensively, we're super young already.
Yeah, and Ian Thomas is ready to break out.
And defensively, I mean, if you look at who has been removed from this team, whether it's from retirement or we just got rid of them, other than Cam, it's pretty much been defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Olsen left, but that was sort of written on the wall. So your defense really has been decimated because veterans have been leaving. But your offense, you didn't have a ton of veterans to get rid of. You've got rookies and you've got young guys on, pretty good deals. So I kind of get it. I think the offense was kind of built well already. Adding Robbie Anderson, maybe not something they had to do, but I think they got a good value for him. And again, he's another one of Matt Rule's guys, which I think had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm still kind of at a loss. That's my personal opinion.
Well, it's a tough line to straddle between, putting a product out there that nobody wants to come see because that's embarrassing. Tepper doesn't want to do that. But then also building for the future. It's tough. I mean, I don't envy these guys. I think they've done a pretty good job because they haven't locked themselves into anything. So if you're looking at it from that standpoint, I think they've done a great job. I do want to just quickly touch on some of our major free agents that have left. Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe both went to Dallas.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Like they're going to have, 40% of their starting defensive line is going to be former Panthers last year.
Because it was so good.
Right, because that was such the strength of our team.
Gerald McCoy signed a 3-year, $18 million contract. What are they thinking? Well, I guess it's essentially a 1-year, $6 million contract.
Essentially. He was, $11 million with us last year or something? Yeah. So, that's a pretty significant pay cut for him. And then Dontari Poe, I don't have the numbers on that, so no idea. I don't even know I think it was a 3-year deal, but I'm not sure. Actually, it says 2 years, $10 million. Who knows if he'll actually play?
Yeah. I'm just was shocked that they even signed him to a 3-year deal. I know it's essentially a 1-year deal, but
yeah. Well, he could be a very solid backup there. I mean, he may not start for them. I don't know. I don't know what their defensive line situation is. Bradbury, I think, was already signed when we talked last, but he went to the Giants, 3 years, $43 million.
Good for him.
Pretty much $15 million a year for him. Greg Van Roten, that was somebody that we both hoped that we would re-sign. Man, he went to the Jets, 3 years, $10.5 million. I'd been happy to give that to him here.
I don't know. I think that's a little bit heavy for him just because he has been a journeyman. He's 30 years old. But essentially, it's a 1-year, $3 million contract that you can get out of afterwards. Yeah, I would have accepted that.
Yeah, I'd have loved to have him back, especially, we don't have anybody on our offensive line now except for the guys we drafted last year, basically.
And John Miller. We have John Miller. We just talked about John Miller from Cincinnati, 27 years old. He's getting paid more than Greg Van Roten.
That's true. 3 of our guys went to Panthers North, Buffalo. Mario Addison, Vernon Butler, and Darrell Williams all signed with old Sean McDermott up there. So
coaches love the guys they're familiar with, man. That's how it is.
Addison got a good deal. 3 years, $30 million.
That's way more than he deserves at this point of his career.
I was gonna say that's a lot of money for him. With us, let's see, that last contract he signed with us was 3 years, 22.5. Has he really done enough to up his price by that much? Yeah. Butler got a good deal for him. 2 years, $15 million.
What has Butler shown? Come on. That's a big that's a decent sized contract for a defensive tackle.
It's more than he would have gotten on a 5th-year option with us.
He's making more money than Gerald McCoy. Look.
That's true per season, yeah. Now they do have an out after 1 year with him, to where they can get out with only $1 million dead cap. So, smart decision on their part to structure that deal like that because he might be terrible.
Might be,
but I think he had a pretty good season last year compared to the rest of his career.
He's young and he's athletic and he has potential. I get that, but that seems like a high contract for him.
Darrell Williams, 1 year, no contract information on him. Don't really care.
Yeah, That's a
Happy to
decent
see him go.
signing. I could see him be a guard there and produce well. He was, good at one time. Maybe after that knee injury, he'll never be the same, but who knows? Maybe he can resurrect his career.
Yeah, maybe. And then Olsen and Bruce Irvin both going to Seattle.
I don't want to hear it.
I think we kind of talked about that. And that's basically it. The rest of the guys are still unsigned. Cam's still out there. Eric Reed. Ross Cockrell. I think we both would be happy to have him back.
Yeah. Right now we have Dante Jackson as our only starting cornerback.
That's tough.
And yeah.
Ugh,
and
that is tough.
And we were sitting here thinking about trying to replace him last year because he played so horrible.
That is tough. Those are really the only guys. Kyle Love's still out there, but I don't think he's coming back. He's kind of getting up there in age.
And he's not familiar with this team. I could see him going to Washington, maybe as like a rotational backup
Washington
guy.
Or even Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Although they signed Butler, so they probably wouldn't sign both of them. So yeah, Colin Jones still out there. You want Colin Jones back?
Happy trails, Colin Jones. Happy trails.
What if we signed Colin Jones to like a 2-year, $2 million deal with the express stipulation that he only plays special teams?
I'd be fine with that. He's a good special teamer.
He was a very good special teamer.
I just don't want to ever see him in our defense again.
Yeah, I agree.
But honestly, right now, he'd be a starting corner on this team.
Well, yes, by default. Let's talk about Cam real fast. What do you think happens with him?
Well, I thought someone would sign him by now, but with coronavirus going on, people can't really give him a physical. Yeah. I feel bad for him. I thought Chargers...
Bad timing.
I thought the Chargers should go after him, but supposedly they're not interested. If that's the case, he's going to probably have to take a backup deal somewhere.
He may. Yeah, you and I had an off-air bit about Cam. You thought he was going to be signed. I think he might go into the summer unsigned. I think it could be June or July before he gets signed.
Now I agree with you with the way people aren't. I was shocked no one jumped at him with a 2-year deal, a 2-year $45 million contract that you can get out after 1 year.
No way.
You don't think?
I don't think he makes more than $10 million. I think he's signed to a 1-year deal, less than $10 million.
Well, now, because I don't think he's going to get...
No, I thought that the whole time because...
Well, no, I'm saying I agree with that now because I thought someone was going to try to grab him for a starting job.
Well, I certainly never would have thought if you would have told me 2 months ago that we were going to release Cam, I'd have been like, okay, I understand that. We're sort of prepared for that. But that he would go unsigned through the first couple weeks of free agency, and now it looks like not even be a starter in the league, maybe not even be on a roster until training camp, if training camp happens. Man, that's wild to me. That's crazy.
This organization really screwed him over, man. Because if they were just going to release him, they should have released him before free agency hit. Then that way they gave him a chance to find a team.
So you can look at it two different ways, I think. Supposedly, reports are coming out now that they've been trying to trade him since November of last year. That they have put it out there that he is available. Come get him. Nobody wanted to. Then they put the news out, obviously, right around free agency starting, that he was available for trade publicly. Nobody wanted to come get him. It would have been better for Cam to have been traded because he would get that $20 million, right? He's not getting that $20 million now. Nobody's going to give him $20 million for a season, or for next season at least. So I sort of think, they were maybe trying to do right by him by trading him just so he could keep that cash. But obviously, with the coronavirus happening and not being able to give him a physical, that's hurt him worse than anything the Panthers have done to him. So, I don't know. We'll see. Dream scenario for me would he goes to the Patriots and just plays really well. I'd love to see him excel with Bill Belichick. I think that'd be fun to watch.
I would love to see Bill Belichick create an offense for him. That would be so much better than what we've seen with Norv Turner and oh god, he's so bad that I forgot his name.
Scott Turner?
Not Scott Turner. Before.
Oh, you're talking about Shula? Mike Shula?
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. Well, Mike Shula, at least got us to the Super Bowl.
True.
But yeah,
but once people figured out Mike Shula was like, well, this is what I've done. I don't know what else to do.
Right. It worked last time. Why isn't it working
Triangle
this time?
makes triangle. I don't know.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I think that's about it. Anything else you wanted to discuss?
Tiger King, but you haven't watched it yet.
I have not watched Tiger King. Nope. I am on my, let's see, I rewatched Mean Girls last night, which is great. Great movie.
I love, Tina Fey is a great person. She wrote it. And that was a great movie.
Yeah. Really like that movie. I'm sort of doing a rewatch of Veep right now. Have you ever seen that?
No, I have not.
HBO. It's really good. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Vice President of the United States. It's funny.
Yeah.
Real funny.
My wife and I are watching all the Marvel movies in the correct timeline. So start with Captain America, then Captain Marvel.
Nice.
We're punching through it. We're almost to Avengers 2.
I'm looking forward to when this whole quarantine is lifted and, I can send my son to grandma's house for a night so I can actually watch movies again, because I don't really have the opportunity to watch that many movies. Like Mean Girls, it took me 2 days to watch.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, but I do want to see The Hunt, that movie that was in theaters that they went ahead and put on streaming.
I know. I don't know what that
where
is.
it seems like it's like liberal elites hunting.
Oh, yes.
Members of the Republican Party.
Is that what it is? I thought it was
that's
just
sort of what it
I thought it was
seems
just
like.
Rich people hunting poor people, basically.
Yeah, I think that might be what it is, but it was very politically charged, and that was sort of what I was reading from some people, was saying that it's like liberal elites hunting, MAGA hat wearing.
That seems contradictory, though. Do liberal elites believe in guns? Like,
there you go. That's your conflict of the movie right there.
I mean,
conflict built in. Either way, I do want to see it. It looks kind of funny, but either way, all right. Well, I think that's it. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to do our draft preview.
Yeah, I kind of looked at the schedule. I think in 2 weeks we will be back with a draft preview, as long as the draft is still going on, which right now it seems like it's going on, just not in Vegas.
Yeah, seems like they're hell-bent on having it, which is fine with me because I need some sports right now.
Yeah.
Just do it in a studio and,
Pro Bowl.
I mean, just vet everybody that's going into the studio. There won't be that many people, and just do the draft. Like, I don't know why there's a controversy around it.
And people can easily, like, if you want to interview the draftee, you could do it via Skype.
Yeah. What's the other option? I mean, you can't push the draft into August. There's no time.
And I don't need...
Unless you're going to push the season back.
Yeah, and maybe they can make it more fun, to be honest with you. I'm tired of the same old thing. At least now you don't get to know the pick before they make it, but...
Yeah.
Maybe you can splash it up some more. Maybe show more highlights instead of, 20 minutes of a guy walking, shaking hands before he actually gets to the stage.
Yeah, and I don't need to see random kid in the audience upset over whatever pick.
Yeah.
Or, random person in the audience excited about the guy that nobody's ever heard of.
And I don't need the third round. I don't need to see some guy I've never heard of or a dog make a pick.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Well, I will kind of miss that, but...
I'm actually thinking of an orangutan, and it wasn't a dog.
The goldfish comes down and points at one card. I do kind of wish that we were going to be able to see that, the Las Vegas production that they were going to have. I hope that they do the draft there next year or something. because that seemed like it was just going to be right for comedy.
I think they'll have to give it back to them 1 year just to as an apology, even though it's not their fault. But I think that's it for today, isn't it?
Yeah, my wife just texted me and said, "Tell Jerry it's time for dinner." So I guess it's time for dinner.
Well, thank you for everyone listening to MeowMix, a Carolina Panthers podcast. You can reach us at email at mailbag at meowmixpodcast.com. Please subscribe to wherever you're listening to this podcast, and
tell your friends.
Keep pounding.
And keep pounding. Yes. All right, everyone. Until next time, we will be active on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. And until next time, keep pounding.